and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going a little bit back in time because I never did a guide to New Zealand even though I backpacked New Zealand. You may have seen my New Zealand footage. I did a GoPro montage of all that I got up to in New Zealand. That's on my channel already. In this video I'm going to do a little breakdown of New Zealand. I'm going to go from start to finish, what's on the islands, what the main attractions are, what you shouldn't miss, the best time to go to New Zealand, how you can get around New Zealand, a little bit about money and how much you can expect things to cost, and a few tips and tricks from me from a backpacker's perspective. What can you expect in New Zealand? Amazing wildlife, amazing to us Brits anyway because we don't get the likes of whales and kiwi birds in our country. They are the most picturesque, beautiful, postcard-like scenes that you will come across in New Zealand. It's very chilled, there's a very nice laid-back lifestyle to New Zealand, and there's a lot of outdoor activity, beautiful drives and beautiful ocean views, snow-capped mountains and beautiful walks, adrenaline rushes. If you're coming from somewhere like me in London, going to New Zealand is like taking a massive breath of fresh air. There are two islands to New Zealand. There's the North Island and the South Island, and I will go through both as to what is in them. How do you get around New Zealand? New Zealand is a massive place and you're going to cover a lot of ground and a lot of driving if you want to explore different areas of it. Camper vans are a really popular option in New Zealand. From backpackers to families to couples, you can stop off anywhere and you've got your beds with you, which is obviously better than having a car where you'd have to find a hotel, and sometimes you're in the middle of nowhere and there is no hotel, so camper vans are great to just explore, road trip, pull up where you like, explore New Zealand at your own pace and leisure. I will link below some luxury and budget camper van companies that you could have a look into if that's something you're interested in. Flying is another option. Maybe there's only a couple of places that you want to go. Then obviously flying is going to get you from A to B a hell of a lot quicker than a car can or a coach can. So if you've got the budget and you're tight on time, then you can fly internally in New Zealand. Another option to get around New Zealand is to walk. Only joking. Another option you have is to go with a bus company, which is exactly what I did when I backpacked around, and it is very popular. There are 3 or 4 companies that you can choose from. Prior to going, I only knew about Kiwi Experience. There are other companies that will do a similar route and they may be a little bit cheaper, or they might just be at better times of the day for you. So those other options include stray buses, naked buses and intercity. If you're thinking about doing Kiwi Experience but you're a little bit undecided as to whether to do it, I can say from first-hand experience that Kiwi Experience is great for meeting people. There are so many parts of New Zealand that are rural, but they're worth going to because of the things there and the scenes there, but you don't want to be on your own. You know, travelling is about sharing it with people and experiencing it. If you do want to be on your own, go for it, but if you do want to be with people, something like Kiwi Experience is great. Other great things about booking onto the Kiwi Experience: your bus driver is super knowledgeable, so as you're driving through mountains and rivers and lakes and oceans, he will be telling you what it is, a little bit about the history of it, and makes the driving and the distances go a little bit quicker. When you stay at each place, you'll be given a schedule as to what time you're leaving the next day. Leaving on time and having a bit of a schedule means that you actually get places, you actually get the distance covered, and you don't run behind. At times, I have to be honest, it did feel a little bit like a school trip in the sense that, you know, you get off the bus and you can go to the cafe at this time, and you've got to be at the back of the bus at this time, and sometimes you just want to do things as and when you feel like it. That's something I normally love about travelling. I think if you're covering such a massive distance, you've got to have some kind of structure to it to actually make sure you get around the island. With the Kiwi Experience as well, you will get discounted accommodation and activities. Why? Because the Kiwi Experience obviously is bringing such a big group of people. They will team up with hostels and activity centres around the country to get you group deals. When you're backpacking, every little bit helps. If you're wondering what kind of route the Kiwi Experience takes, I have done my research and there are 32 different passes that you can choose from. You can start from anywhere on the island and you can stop off for as long as you want, as long as you use the pass in a year. Let's get down to it. You want to know what's in New Zealand, starting with the south, because that's where I went. I will be linking all the blog posts that I did when I was in New Zealand, so you can see photos and specifics. Starting where I started in Christchurch. Christchurch is a city that at the moment it's not looking much like a city. There's a lot of rubble. New Zealand experienced some pretty bad earthquakes in 2011, and the aftermath is still quite evident. You can actually go and see for yourself some places that haven't actually been touched since the earthquake. So you can see there was this one building that had the office chairs and the bin and everything that was still there the day that the earthquake happened. There are lots of places in Christchurch where you can go and learn about what happened. It's so fascinating. And we popped into the Quake City Museum. There are some restaurants and bars in Christchurch, but for what you'd expect of a city, there isn't a lot going on. Somewhere we did find there was quite a lot of people and was quite a popular place to hang out was a place called Restart. It's basically made of shipping containers and there's lots of food stalls and pop-up shops and stores. It's a really cool place to hang out, especially when the sun's out. The botanical gardens in Christchurch are also really pretty. There's some nice parks to run through. There's a really nice rose garden and there's also a river that runs through Christchurch near the centre and there's some really nice pubs on the river. Kaikoura was our next stop. Kai translates to eat and Kora translates to crayfish. Evidently this is the home of crayfish. Kaikoura is also home to whale watching and they also do trips like swimming with dolphins and swimming with the seals. Those trips, particularly the whale watching trip, is quite expensive, particularly for backpackers, but some people, you know, that's what they've come to New Zealand for, so it's not even a question. For me, I've fortunately already swum with dolphins and the whale trip was just slightly too expensive, but I do not regret it at all because we ended up going on a trip with a local guy that lives in the village. You will go out on Jerry's boat and you will together catch crayfish. We then went back to Jerry's. Jerry showed us how to wash them, how to prep them, how to season them, and then how to cook the crayfish. Then we all sat in Jerry's back garden in the sunshine, played music, had wine, had crisps and nibbles. For value for money, I cannot fault Jerry's at all. I will remember that afternoon forever. Also, if you go into the village and have crayfish for dinner, you'll pay up to $100 for a whole crayfish. We got the trip for $60 and we got the opportunity to take some crayfish home with us. From Kaikoura we went up to Blenheim and on the way we did actually stop at a seal colony and we saw all the baby seals in the waterfall. In case you don't know, the Marlborough region, which is where Blenheim that is one of the most famous regions for growing grapes for wine in the world. I can remember we went to Gibson Bridge and Wither Hills, which are two popular ones there, but there are loads to choose from and you can do like cycling tours through the vineyards. A little further up you've got the Marlborough Sounds where you can do some beautiful walks and that's also where you can get the ferry up to the North Island. Going down the west coast of the South Island you've got Kaiterere where you've got a gorgeous golden beach. There you can do lots of water activities like kayaking. A popular thing to do is kayak to the Split Apple Rock. You'll find Abel Tasman National Park where you can do some really cool overnight hikes, camping, biking. You can also do a really cool skydive. Moving down the west coast from Kaiterere, you can find the Nelson Lakes where you can get this famous shot. At this point you will join onto the State Highway 6 where you will join 435 kilometers of beautiful roads to drive along. At this point you won't want to be sleeping on your coach journeys or camper van journeys. You will see some of the most stunning sights and views across the ocean and lakes and mountains. Then you move down to Westport, which wasn't that interesting, but on the Kiwi experience we all went onto the beach and built a bonfire and had a barbecue and marshmallows and stuff. Then we went to one of the local pubs. One place I would actually recommend to go to in Westport was a restaurant called Denniston Dog and they did awesome food. Down the west coast it's also great to stop off at the Punakaki Rocks. Next down the west coast you've got Franz Josef, which was one of my favourite places in New Zealand. It's here that you can do the glacier hike. You've got Fox Glacier and Franz Josef Glacier. The glacier hike is very weather dependent. When we were there it was too cloudy and windy for the helicopters to land and obviously they put safety first, so we didn't get to do it. But I did instead take a helicopter ride over the glacier and over the mountains, which was absolutely stunning. Continuing down the west coast you are on your way to Lake Wanaka. On the way you can stop off at some really cool waterfalls and we stopped off at Thunder Creek Falls. We also stopped off and did a little walk through to this lake, which is like known as like a mirror lake because it mirrors Mount Cook into Lake Matheson, which is quite a famous photo to get if you're in New Zealand. Here is mine. When you get to Lake Wanaka, again, it's another of New Zealand's stunning spots. You can sit by the lake, you can relax, there's lots of shops, lots of cute ice cream parlours and restaurants, and nice places you can have a drink overlooking the lake. Then we're on to Queenstown, and Queenstown is by far the biggest highlight of the South Island for me. It's like a little village, everyone gets to know everybody, and there are so many cool things to do. Frisbee golf, watching the sunset on the lake with some ciders. Really cool nightlife. Our favourite spots were Loco and The Find. Amazing food, everything from health and organic shops to Ferg Burger, and if you go you will have to have a burger from Ferg Burger. You can do a walk up to the Basket of Dreams, you can do an even bigger walk up to Ben Lomond and get unbelievable sights. Queenstown is so beautiful. Last but definitely not least, Queenstown is known as the adrenaline capital of the world. There are hundreds of activities for all you adrenaline seekers. You can have little baby steps into like a little bungee jump, or you can go all the way up to the third biggest bungee in the world, which is the Nevis bungee. There's the shot over jet, there's skydives, there's just loads of stuff to do. You will see quotes all over Queenstown saying things like go hard or go home. Basically, you've got to do something, you've got to try something before you go. Additionally, from Queenstown you can head even further south. Stewart Island is further down south, where the population of kiwi birds is actually more than the population of humans. Milford Sounds is also a day trip away from Queenstown. It's known as the 8th wonder of the world. It is beautiful. I went on a grey cloudy day. I wouldn't say it was in my top 3 things to do in New Zealand, but rumour has it you can't go to New Zealand without doing it, so it's well worth adding on. As you come back up to Christchurch, there is Lake Taupo. Lake Taupo is home to the world's largest dark sky reserve. Moving on to the North Island, which I didn't actually do, but I have done my research and I also met a lot of people that had done it, so here are the highlights. Right from the very top you've got Cape Reinga. Not sure if I said that right. This spot is sacred to the Maori people. It's home to the 90-mile beach. You can find huge kauri trees here, and you can also go sand dune surfing. The Bay of Islands, which is a collection of 144 gorgeous islands. Auckland, which is the capital, which is where a lot of people fly into. Here you can climb the Auckland Harbour Bridge. You can bungee jump off it. It's actually the only bungee in New Zealand that dunks you into the ocean. You've got the Sky Tower with 360 views over Auckland, and off that you can actually sky jump down 192 metres. Hot Water Beach, where you can kayak off to the famous Cathedral Cove, and then you've got Hot Water Beach, which is ranked in Lonely Planet's top 10 beaches in the world. It's here that you can walk and take a shovel at low tide, dig, and you can soak in the warm natural springs. Watamu, which is somewhere that I actually really want to go. Here you've got forest walks, you can do black water rafting, and there is the famous glowworm caves. These are underwater caves, and you can go on little boat trips. I think you can walk under them, and they all light up. These glowworms just like glow up, like really pretty. Further down is Rotorua. This is the Maori culture capital. That's something you miss if you only do South Island like I did, and it's here that you can spend a night with the tribe, and they'll cook you dinner and you learn their traditional dances and get a feel for the culture. There's a Polynesian spa here with volcanically warmed waters, a skyline gondola, and nearby is also the Lord of the Rings film set of Hobbiton. For all you Lord of the Rings fans out there. Then you got Lake Taupo, and if you're planning to skydive, this is meant to be the best place in New Zealand to do the skydive. Then you've got the Tongariro Alpine crossing over the active volcanic terrain, which is meant to be one of the best walks in the world. You've got the volcanic parks, I think it's Tipuia, to see the Pohutu shooting geyser. Here you've also got a great chance of seeing the kiwi birds, which is New Zealand's native bird, and there's also Hook Falls. Next you've got River Valley, where you've got the Rangitikei River. There's also meant to be an epic horseback ride through the Rangitikei Hill country, and also Tongariro National Park, where there's meant to be a host of free amazing walks. And last but not least, at the bottom of the North Island you've got Wellington, which is meant to be full of arts and culture. There's a free museum called Te Papa, which I've heard about, and there's also lots of nightlife here. Does the temperature differentiate from the North and South Island, and when is the best time to go? The North and South Island have similar seasons. The North Island on average has a slightly higher temperature. December to February is New Zealand's summer, so you can expect 20 to 30 degrees. Wintertime is June to August-ish, and in South Island you see a lot of snow, and in the north you see a lot of rain. It's in the winter that people head to the South Island for snow sports like skiing and snowboarding. How much time do you need in New Zealand? This is really hard and really dependent on what you're looking for in New Zealand. The best thing to do is make a note of all the places that you want to go, see where they are in comparison to each other, what transport you're going to need to take to see them. With the Kiwi Experience passes, they'll give you a minimum time that they think you should complete in, and those days are a really good guide as to how long you should be leaving for the route that you're taking. I did the South Island in just over 3 weeks, which I feel was about the right time. One of those weeks included a week in Queenstown. If you're going to go to the South Island, be prepared to love Queenstown, because everybody does. I could literally live there. Whatever time you're giving yourself, give yourself a little bit of allowance to love a certain place. Which island is better? Again, it really depends on what you like doing and what's actually drawing you to New Zealand. If it's adrenaline activities, then Queenstown is where it's at. Nightlife, Queenstown. There's a lot more culture to experience in the north, particularly the Maori stuff. I think if you've only got time to do one, just make a list of all the things you like to do and weigh up how many is in each, and see which ones pull you more. There's going to be one. How much money will you need in New Zealand? It's a question I get asked the most, but it's actually the hardest to answer because we all have different eating habits. Some people want to do activities, some people are happy just chilling, and all these things cost or don't cost money, so it can vary a lot. I spent around £300 a week in spending money, and I was doing activities and I was spending money on nights out, so it was slightly luxurious. You'll find the average hostel price is 22 to 31 New Zealand dollars a night. Food isn't ridiculously expensive, and you can of course cook in your hostel and go to the local supermarkets. New Zealand obviously is heavily activity based, and they aren't cheap to do the activities. I did the Nevis Bungee in Queenstown and that was 250 New Zealand dollars. Yes, it's luxurious and you're on a backpacker budget, but you've come all the way to the other side of the world. Are you going to go home and regret not doing it? Yes, do it. Obviously, aside from your spending money, you've got to get your visa and your bus pass. I took my money with me on an STA cash card. I will link below how you set it up. With the cash card, transactions are completely free, but if you want to withdraw money, it's £2.25. So just be careful that you're not withdrawing money all the time in little amounts, because that £2.25 seems small but really adds up. New Zealand is really developed, so they have pin machines everywhere, so most of the time you will be just using your card for transactions, which is free. Tips and tricks for travelling New Zealand. Make sure you've told your insurance that you're going to be doing all those activities. It does incur a little surcharge additionally, but you want to make sure you're covered in case you get injured. I will link the insurance company that I use below. Make sure your backpack has a waterproof cover, because in New Zealand it can get a little rainy, and you want to make sure that none of your stuff gets wet, because there's nothing worse than having a whole backpack full of soggy clothes. Again, I will link the backpack that I've got below, and I also had a little waterproof mini backpack for daytime excursions. If you're not travelling in a group and you're doing it on your own, use things like Hostel Bookers, Airbnb, Hostel World and Booking.com to book ahead and get cheaper deals on your accommodation. The glacier at Franz Josef is one of the most popular things to do, and it's very weather dependent, so to ensure you get to see it and get to do the hike, make sure you leave a little bit of leeway and stay there for a few days. You're giving yourself enough time for the weather to get better so that you can actually do it, because a lot of people miss out because they don't leave that time. That's the end of my guide to New Zealand. I hope I have helped you and steered you in the right direction for your adventure. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, or let me know in the comments below, or comment if there's another video you'd like me to do, or you have any questions that I didn't answer.